Let's hear it for the legends themselves, the APA, John Bradshaw, Layfield, Ron Simmons. Let's hear it for them.
Hi. Longtime fan of both of your works across so many different incarnations and organizations. And while you have so many classic moments that we rewatch, and I'm sure you hear about, especially at events like this, people get to relive it and see it. I'm curious for both of you, whether as a tag team or in your solo careers, do you have any matches you're particularly proud of that you wish were more well known?
That's a great question. And yeah, there are a few. You know, I had some in Europe that nobody ever saw. You know, I worked with Finley over there, Tony St. Clair, who was a great worker, Luke Poirier, who was an incredibly underrated worker in Europe, wrestled as Rambo over there, worked in Japan a lot where nobody saw in the matches against Tenryu and Choshu and Kendo Nagasaki and a bunch of guys. Nobody ever saw those matches. And I thought they were good. Now, if I watched them back, that made me realize I was sucked. But, you know, yeah, there's a lot of things like that nobody really saw because it was just in a place that didn't either film it or there wasn't a lot of presence for what they had.
Yeah, and that is it's a very good question. But in fairness in answering the question is that in this business, right, and when you've done extensive traveling like myself and John has, right, you go to places where you would never dream of. And you can go there and have what we would consider to be absolute perfect when it comes to the business match. And it might be in front of 10 people, you know, right. But to us, it was fantastic and no one sees it, you know, because there's no media or anything like that. But speaking of matches that you all have seen and in situations where we've been in, I've had the good fortune of being tagged up with a lot of good people, you know, but I can vehemently say that the enjoyment of working and being in the ring with someone, you know, that you really love and care about was when we got together as tag partners, you know? Yeah, so that's when everything comes together that everybody in this business dream of, you know? Great person to work with, great friend, and enjoying what you do, you know? So, yeah, to answer your question, that's more of like it. You know, yes.
Great question.
Hey, and to give a little more feedback on that, you know, you look at the great tag teams of all time. You know, most of them were brother tag teams. You know, you had Harlem Heat was a great tag team. The Steiner brothers were a great tag team. The Briscoe brothers, the Funk brothers. You know, the Hardy brothers. You know, and Ron and I were pretty much the same. It was like we were brothers. You know, because you got to have a feel for the person you're out there with. You got to generally care about them. You know. The Road Warriors didn't really like each other. You know, Animal and Hawk didn't get along. That's very unusual that teams that didn't like each other could be great teams.
Thank you. So before the question, just quick funny note. Acolyte is a Greek word, and it's mostly known in the Catholic Church as someone who assists the clergy. And I bring that up because I went to a very strict Catholic grade school where spelling counted on our tests. And 1 week after we took a test, my teacher stood in front of the class and said, "How did each of you know how to correctly spell acolyte?" So thanks to you, an entire class got an extra point on that test.
See how that works? You can thank God.
Yep. Yeah, it was because of you guys, because you're in the Attitude Era. So you guys helped that class. So, yeah. A question I have, the year 1996, big year for me in terms of like watching and loving it. And two particular matches in your career. I know you've had so many of these, so something may not stand out, but just as a fan, had to ask. John, during the Justin Hawk Bradshaw days, there were two matches I remember during the summer of '96 that stood out. One, Jake the Snake Roberts in the King of the Ring tournament, and the other, the debuting Freddie Joe Floyd, who was the legendary Tracy Smothers. And Ron, your match that fall against Marc Mero, who you spent time with, you know, during WWE's Johnny B. Bad, and I think that was one of the Intercontinental Tournament matches. So I'm just wondering if you have any particular memories of any of those bouts.
Yeah, I'll tell you about Jake first. I wrestled Jake in the King of the Ring, and Jake's a terrific legend, incredible mind. It was a real honor to be out there with him. But I will say this, Jake was doing kind of a religious gimmick at the time. That's where the Austin 316 thing came up, because Jake was doing this religious gimmick, and that's where Steve came up with Austin 316. So if Jake doesn't beat me in King of the Ring, if I beat Jake, whether Steve beats me or not, Austin 316 never happens. Oh, wow. So I'm completely responsible for Stone Cold Steve Austin and the entire Attitude Era. Yes, that's right.
It's no longer John Bradshaw Layfield.
It's going to take that credit. That's right. Yeah, it's going to take that credit.
Your new name is the Butterfly Effect. The Butterfly Effect, Layfield.
No more, sitting back now being subtle. Just take that credit for us, right?
Well, that's the one thing I love the most about him is his humility. Of course.
But no, man, working with Marc Mero, right? Well, and that earlier in his career, would have been Johnny B. Bad, and which was, by the way, fantastic. If I'd had my way, he would have continued along the lines with Johnny B. Bad because he was fantastic, all right, with that character. Okay, and I think it kind of diminished him a little, right, when he came up to WWF with that watered down version of it, right? If it had stayed with that, there were so many ways you could have played off of that with him, right? But no, I enjoyed working with him at that time, right? Yeah.